Welcome back to another episode of Journey to Happiness. I am excited to have you guys here. So, this episode is one of the most important episodes you'll probably ever hear. If you've ever been one of those people who feel like you're stuck in these toxic relationship patterns, if you feel like you're constantly meeting the same type of person over and over again, this episode is for you. Okay. And even if you're not one of those people, like this episode is just going to give you so much information. Yes, I'm talking about attachment styles. Okay. So, attachment styles. So, first of all, I just want to let you guys know I actually have 4 pages of notes here. This is going to be a longer episode than I've put out so far. It's very important information. I would suggest either taking notes. You might want to listen to this a couple times because I'm just going to throw a lot of information at you guys, and it's going to be very valuable information. And I just want you to be able to take it all in. This is most likely going to be a two-parter. So today I'm just going to go through the attachment styles. What is attachment style? The different types, specifically the insecure attachment styles. And I don't think I'll have enough time unless I want this to be 2 hours long, which I don't, and you probably don't either, to talk about like how to fix them and like ways that you can do things. So I'm looking at this as being like a two, maybe even a three-parter, just kind of like a series all about relationships here. So I just really want to get into this. Give me 1 second. I got a cough. Okay, excuse me. So if you are watching the visual of this and you see me looking down, or if you hear a little bit of paper, papers or whatever, it's just me looking at my notes. I don't normally do notes, but today I just don't want to miss the information. I want to make sure I get this all out, and I want to say it clearly for everybody listening. So, what are attachment styles? They are patterns of relating to others that are developed in childhood, most often developed in childhood, and they can impact how we form relationships as adults. So it's a pattern of how we connect with people. So it tends to start in early childhood. Most of our stuff starts in childhood, right? I want to stress this is not to blame our parents, because when I first found out about this stuff, I had a lot of blame towards my caregivers, towards my parents as a child, because I felt like they fucked up my life so bad because I have had such trouble in relationships my entire life. So when I found out about this stuff, it was actually kind of a relief to me, but I did kind of hold some blame. So this isn't to blame our parents, because I don't even think they were talking about this type of stuff back in the day when I was raised. So I just need to stress that to you guys. So it's a way of attaching in relationships, basically, is what attachment styles are. So there are three main attachment styles. There's technically four. I will talk about the fourth at the end of this. It's not something there's a lot of research on. When attachment styles were first developed and discovered, this fourth one didn't even exist. That was kind of added later on. And there's only about 5% of the population who suffers from that. Um, but so there's the three main ones I'm going to talk about here to begin with. The first one I want to talk about is the one that we all strive to have, and that is secure attachment style. So this develops when a child, as a young child, they feel completely safe and supported by their caregivers. They will most likely form healthy relationships as an adult. So these children are, they are given the autonomy to go out and explore the world, but their parent is always there when they come back as a safe place. So look at it as like a child on the playground, and their parent lets them run off and kind of do their own thing, but they're constantly there watching them. The child gets scared, something happens, they get hurt, whatever it is. They come back to their parent's there, they nurture them, they comfort them, then they kind of let them go and explore the world again. They are just constantly, their emotional needs are met the majority of the time as a child. So as an adult, these people grow up, they have a positive view of their self and others. They trust others and they feel safe with them. They have open communications, they have empathy, they have a healthy level of independence and intimacy. So they can be independent, but they also want intimacy and they want relationships. They know how to communicate with others. They have very healthy boundaries. They have a positive view um, of themselves and of others, basically. If these people have a breakup, so a relationship doesn't work out with somebody, they're sad. They're sad at the beginning, but they, get over it. It's not like the end of the world. They understand that there's other people out there for them, and they're just have this thing where they just feel safe and secure within their own body. And they like to have somebody to share that with, but it's not the end of the world. They can be independent and be alone, and they are completely happy with doing that. This is about half the population. The problem is after you get to age 40, and I don't mean to sound dire here, because like I said, in the next episodes, I will talk about how to get here, because you could actually get here. So that's one thing I should have said too. This is not like one and done. If you have an insecure attachment style, you're not fucked, okay? Because you can get earned secure attachment, and we'll have to talk about that later, probably in the next episode. But you can get earned secure attachment. So you can develop being securely attached. But so what I was going to say, sorry, I digressed a little, but after age 40, the amount of secure attachment people who are in the dating pool is very low. Like, I think it may be like 20%. I'm not sure the exact statistics because they change all the time, but it's a low percentage, which you can probably guess why. These people know how to work in relationships. If they need to get couples therapy, they'll go to couples therapy. It's like the place that we all want to get to, right? That is securely attached people. So that's all I'm going to really talk about with that. Um, but so let's go on to the insecure attachment styles. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the one that I suffered with. This is called anxious attachment. It's also called preoccupied. So anxious/preoccupied attachment. These people have a fear of abandonment and they have a constant need for reassurance. Uh, yeah, a fear of abandonment, constant need for reassurance. These people, as children, most often this stems from inconsistent parenting. So one day, you come home and you have an A on your test and you're super excited, and your parents are, like they're super excited for you. They show you all the emotional stuff they need to show you, etc. A few days later, you come home with another A on your test, really hard test. You're super excited. They don't really show much emotion. They kind of brush it off, you know. Um, it can be just you, as a child, you just never know if somebody's going to meet your emotional needs. So the other thing about this I need to say is, again, this isn't to blame our parents, because many of these children grew up in households where maybe they had a parent who suffered with mental health issues and was in and out of hospitals, or just even like a physical health issue. They were in and out of hospitals. So it's just that inconsistency. And so it can also stem from overbearing parents. I don't know if that's quite as common, but it can stem from overbearing parents. So parents who are afraid to let you explore the world. So the playground example, these parents, they might let you play, but like they kind of want to be right there. Like they don't want to let you explore the world. Everything is fearful for them. So it can also stem from having fearful parents. So the child grows up with this feeling of being unsafe in the world, this feeling of never knowing what's going to happen, who's going to be there for them. They grow up just being very fearful of things around them, and especially in relationships. So, let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Um, but they learn to think that the world is not safe, right? So these traits from as an adult, these anxious people, here's some of the traits that they will exhibit. They will have low self-esteem and negative self-worth. They have a constant mistrust of others. They are constantly afraid that somebody's going to leave them. They don't believe them. If you have a partner, they don't believe their partner when they try to reassure them sometimes. Sorry. They have a constant need for reassurance and affection. This is probably the biggest trait that these people have. And I know this because I suffered from this. You need constant reassurance. So constant words of affirmation, constant, if you're not with each other right then, you need constant texting, constant like all of that, right? If you don't get this as an anxious person, you become worried and stressed and you become very activated, which that's what they call it. They call it being activated. Your anxious system gets very activated. Uh, you have trouble being alone. You crave intimacy so bad. Like it's your whole thing. You crave intimacy, you crave relationships. That's all you think about. That you just want to find a relationship. Because to you, that means safety. If you get in a relationship, that means you're safe. You're hypersensitive to a partner's needs. So you are also very hypersensitive to any inconsistency. So say you have a partner who every morning they text you, "Good morning, beautiful." And you're used to this. It's been going on for, a week or two, whatever. And all of a sudden you wake up one morning, and at this point you probably already know when they go to work, like you know everything about their schedule. You wake up one morning, they haven't texted you that this morning. You instantly get hypersensitive to that because it's inconsistent. So now there is an inconsistency that is now happening, and you start like it's instant anxiety in your body because they didn't text you. So what is going on? Are they mad at you? Are they leaving you? You actually jump to the not being mad at you, but you instantly jump to like, okay, they're done with me. They don't want me anymore. It's kind of crazy, guys. Um, any change in the partner, they will pick up on this and need a reassurance that it is not them. So, like maybe your partner is dealing with a lot of family issues right now, and they had a really bad day at work, but it's you can tell you're very hypersensitive to their like emotions and the way that they're acting. So if they are acting a little bit off, you instantly jump to the conclusion that it's your fault, that you've done something. You are very fearful. If there's an argument, you need to work it out right then, and you need to get back to like being reassured and being close again because in your mind, they're just going to leave. This is kind of like the typical stage five clinger, honestly. It's like the typical, you're dating for a week and this person is seeing wedding bells in their head. Because again, they just are looking for closeness. They're looking for love, and they don't know how to have it alone. They don't know how to have it within themselves, just by themselves. Um, constant texting, constant calling if you're not getting the reassurance. When you have a breakup, it's literally like the end of the world. You feel like your whole world is falling apart. But again, this is just going back. I know it sounds crazy, right? But this is going back to early childhood. So all of the early childhood stuff, whenever you felt abandoned as a child, like this stuff is all just coming to the surface. So those childhood wounds are being very, very activated. They are very prone to protest behaviors. They can be very passive aggressive. They can be very manipulative. So when their needs are not being met, they will go to protest behaviors. This could be ignoring their partner, or it could also be like blowing up their phone, texting them 20 times in a row. This could be crying. This could be all of those things. The passive aggressiveness that comes too, because again, these people also don't know how to, so they want intimacy and they want communication, but they almost don't know how to communicate effectively because they're afraid if they voice their needs, their partner is going to leave them, which is the worst thing that could ever happen. So they will get very passive aggressive, hoping that their partner will just pick up on their cues. And when they don't, when the partner doesn't pick up on their cues, they will get even more mad and more mad. So I know that's a lot of information about these anxious people. But it's just, it's really important, even if you don't suffer from anxious attachment, it's really important to understand this because you might have a partner who suffers with this. I want to say this was like last statistic I heard, this was about 25% of the population, which I wonder if it's actually more, but I'm not sure. Um, Another thing with all of these attachment styles too is you could be like maybe you were married to somebody who was kind of secure, so your anxious attachment issues weren't coming to the surface, but now you get divorced and you're out there dating and you're dating other people and who are maybe not as secure, these attachment issues are going to come up to the surface, okay? The biggest thing here is these people need to learn how to calm their nervous system. Their nervous system is so super activated and they don't know how to calm that down. The only way they can calm this down is with reassurance from their partner. And that's the only thing that's going to do it. So once they get activated, once they get to that activated state, it's just balls to the walls after that. Okay, so that is the anxious slash preoccupied attachment. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the avoidant slash dismissive attachment style. These people prioritize independence and self-reliance. They also have difficulty trusting others. They want intimacy, but they are afraid of losing their freedom. So, the thing about the avoidant and the anxious people is that it's both stemming from the same thing. They are just going down two separate tracks on the way that they present themselves with this. So, again, these people, they prioritize their independence, their self-reliance. They also don't trust people, and they crave the intimacy, but they are so afraid of losing their independence that they shy away from it once they get it. These people get a really bad rap. I mean, the anxious people get a bad rap too for being like a clinger. These people get a really bad rap because they are the AKA player. These are your typical players. Um, it's not that they're doing it on purpose. They're not doing it to hurt people on purpose. They just are suffering inside, okay? These children as a child. So with the anxious person, we talked about inconsistent parenting. These people, their caregivers were almost never responsive to their needs. They are basically consistently unresponsive. So, these people, if we use the example I used in the last one where they come home with an A on their paper, and one day the parents are excited, and the next day they're not. These people just never get that excitement from their parents. They are taught that they're to shove down their emotions. These people could also have had parents who it's kind of that whole. I mean, there are some females who are avoidant attachment, but I think it does stem to males more a little bit. So it could very well be like that whole society thing, right? And so their parents are like, "Oh no, you can't show your emotions, et cetera, et cetera." If they do show emotions as a child, they're never met with their emotional needs are never met. So they kind of learn just to shove it all down. Um, they were just never there, basically. These people learn not to share their emotions because it doesn't matter anyway. So they're just basically taught that they need to deal with everything on their own. So some of the traits here, they have a fear of intimacy. So even though, yes, they kind of want it subconsciously, but they also are very afraid of it. So they have a fear of emotional closeness, a fear of intimacy. They want to maintain distance in a relationship. So these people need a lot of space. They're not somebody who wants to spend every night together normally. They might want to spend once a week with you, and that's it. They are very avoidant upon becoming dependent upon others. So, yeah, that's just a big trait of theirs. They don't express their emotions because they're afraid of it's not going to be reciprocated anyway. They're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of being criticized. They will avoid conflict at all costs. So they don't know how to have even minor disagreements or arguments. They will withdraw from that. They don't know how to express their feelings, so they normally will suppress their feelings. They limited affection. Uh, they will resist sharing thoughts and feelings. Again, they're scared of judgment. They have an extreme fear of commitment. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more about these two here in a minute because there's a lot of information. These are just some traits. This is like the basic 101, like attachment style class here. So, I did mention to you guys that I would talk about the fourth one. This is not very common. By the way, I think avoidant attachments are like 20% of the population. I don't know if I said that. The fourth one is only about 5% of the population. Again, not a lot of research out about this, but it's basically a combination of the anxious and the avoidant people. So this is called disorganized attachment style. It can also be called fearful slash avoidant attachment style. These come from chaotic households. This comes from major trauma, major chaos, usually frightening parents or caregivers and very inconsistent caregivers. It's just a mixture of the anxious and avoidant people. These people do tend to run more than the others because they are very anxious. They want the love there, and then as soon as they get it, they just run the other way because they're so afraid of it. So that's the fourth one. Again, not going to go into a lot of that one right now. So let's go back to the anxious and the avoidant people. The issue that we have, and nobody really knows why, but for whatever reason, anxious and avoidant people tend to end up together. So I'll just give you a moment to let that sink in. They tend to end up together. So you can probably already guess if you've been listening this much, you can probably already guess why this is an issue. You have one person who needs constant reassurance, constant affection, constant communications. You have another person who is afraid of all of those things I just mentioned. So you have a classic push-pull relationship here. This is referred to as the anxious avoidant trap. It is a cycle of pursuit and withdrawal, push and pull. So again, nobody really knows exactly why this happens, but there are some theories. One of them is that each person offers what the other lacks. So for the anxious person, they really crave, and I mean, they wish they don't crave it. They wish they could be independent. They wish that they could just be happy on their own, right? But they can't. They don't know how. The avoidant person, so and this is all subconscious here. So the avoidant person subconsciously wishes they could share their emotions more. They wish that they had that ability to have intimacy, true intimacy with others, but they don't know how. So opposites attract, right? They are very attracted to each other. Um, there's also belief that it could be an unconscious need to fix the other person. Also it could just be that that's what they're used to, they grew up in these certain ways. We tend to date people that were like our parents, right? Like I think my dad probably had some avoidant tendencies from when I was growing up, so I probably was looking for the same kind of men, right, as my father. Um, it all stems from the same thing. Both of these people, the anxious and the avoidant person, it all stems from the same thing. It's inconsistent or unavailable caregivers, and so they're seeking out partners who unconsciously are repeating these patterns. And the problem is both of these people have difficulty communicating their needs, but they go about it in different ways. The avoidant person is just going to withdraw. The anxious person is going to turn very passive aggressive. And so you have this constant push and pull dynamic that is going on. Um, and again, like I said, most these people, they do tend to end up together. And a lot of people will ask the question, like, well, can I heal my attachment issues if I'm dating somebody with the opposite attachment style? So it's going to be really hard, honestly. It's going to be hard because one of the things is for the anxious person, they do kind of know that something is wrong. Like I knew for years that there was something wrong every time I got in relationships. I knew that it wasn't healthy. I knew that when I got in these relationships, I was constantly not trusting. I was constantly on edge, but I didn't know that it had a name. Like I had no clue. I just thought it was because I was dating these men that weren't good for me. Like I was dating men who were never there for me or very inconsistent with me, and it would be very activating for me, but I knew there was something wrong. So when I found out about attachment styles, I was like, and that was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I think, maybe 5 years ago, I became a nerd for this stuff because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not fucking crazy. There's a reason that I'm going through the things that I'm going through. Like it's literally you want a relationship, but when you get in that relationship, it's all of a sudden you have such anxiety. And that's how it was every time I would like meet a guy or I would date somebody, I would feel anxious. Like from the very beginning, I would start to feel anxious. And that's why, because you again, you don't trust anybody. And the more that you go through life and the more that you have these different relationships, yes, it stems from childhood, but like it all can also stem from patterns in your life. So the more that you have relationships that aren't good for you, the more that pattern just gets ingrained in your brain, right? So that is just I just went off on a tangent there, but that is like a big deal, you know? So when I first found out about this, I was like, holy shit, yes. But for the avoidant person, like they sometimes it's harder to get through to them. They don't know, like they don't recognize that something is wrong. They're not like, oh yes, fix me, because they're just like, they have this positive view. They think they have a positive view of themselves. But again, they're suppressing emotions, not just on the outward side, not just to their partners, but they're also suppressing their emotions on the inside. So they don't really believe that there's anything wrong. And actually, like the other thing here too is a lot of times these avoidant people will start the relationship off as the pursuer. So they're the ones who are like asking you out. They're the ones who are wanting to take you on a date. They're the ones who are pursuing you. And so then for the anxious person, it's like, okay, yes, great. But then what happens is the more that you become close, the more that the intimacy starts to happen, that's when the avoidant person starts to push away. So they might be great with you for the first few weeks. They might even be great for a couple months, depending on how the relationship is going. But the moment that the intimacy starts to get real, the moment that the discussions start to be had and you start to share your feelings, and a good anxious attachment people are known for oversharing anyway. Once that begins to happen, the avoidant person starts to push away. And then that just leaves the anxious person feeling like they did something wrong, like there's something wrong with them. The other thing with anxious people too is they get so wrapped up in other people and like their relationships and what their partner likes. Like it's all about them. You completely like there's levels to attachment style, so it could be extreme, it could not be extreme. For me, it was extreme. I would get so wrapped up, and it's kind of like the typical, okay, say for an example, you hate motorcycles, okay? You hate riding motorcycles, you're scared of them, never liked them, okay? Just an example here. You get with a partner who they're like half of their life is riding motorcycles. They love it. Next thing you know, you're telling all your friends how much you love to ride motorcycles. You hated them a week ago. You hated them a month ago, but now all of a sudden you love them. It's because your partner's want like likes and the things he enjoys start to become your stuff. Like you really can lose yourself in these relationships. And again, these people are so attracted to each other that they are constantly ending up with each other. So many times you'll hear one partner constantly talking about, like, oh my gosh, all I ever do is meet crazy women or crazy men. And, all they want to do is like, they're ready to pack their bags, within the first month, blah, blah, blah. And then you hear other people say, like, I'm always meeting the players. I'm always meeting these people and they can never be there for me emotionally, but you're constantly just attracting these same people in your life over and over again, which I don't have time to go into all of that because I could go down some major rabbit holes with that because, anyway, we'll just stop there with that part. But yeah, these are attachment styles. I hope this was like some good information for you guys. I know I do tend to talk fast. I hope you were able to take it all in. These, this is such important information because even if you identify with somebody who's like securely attached, you might be meeting people who have an insecure attachment style and not understanding why. If you can understand the stuff here, then you can at least work in your relationships. You can at least work with your partner, like, oh, okay, now I know why this is happening. I know what this partner needs. Again, if you're somebody who's stuck in this anxious avoidant trap right now, it is a lot more difficult. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It's going to be a lot more difficult to heal them because you're constantly activating each other. Um, it's not impossible though. It could happen, but both partners have to be on board. If you feel like this is you right now, let your partner listen to this podcast. You can also Google all this stuff. It's all over the internet because you really both partners have to be on board and realize that there's issues and you have to learn how to communicate within those issues and yeah, I mean therapy can also help, therapy can always help, but yeah, so let them listen to this. I'm going to link a quiz in the show notes. So it is my suggestion for you was be to listen to this podcast a couple times, maybe take notes if you want to. I would also encourage you to go and take the quiz. It's not my quiz, it's just one that's on the internet. It's the best quiz to take. It will, but you have to answer the questions like accurately here. Okay. You can't like lie to yourself. You have to, when you look at these questions, you have to be like, yes, I mean, if it's you, say it's you. It will give you what your attachment style is. Many people are going to be able to listen to this episode or even research on the internet, and they're going to know just by hearing it. But if you're still on the fence, take the attachment style quiz. Okay. Figure out what your attachment style is. Come back next week where we will talk about how to actually heal your attachment style. Just some things that I've learned. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be some good information. So, that is what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I can't wait to hear from you guys. If you like it, please subscribe. If you subscribe, it'll let you know every time I release a new episode, which is happening every Monday, but it will let you know that. Download it, give me a review if you like this. It will help other people find this good information. So until next time, I love you so much. Mwah!